Hey Gideon, are you ready to come out and do some gardening with Mom? You ready? Yeah? Okay. Good boy. Yeah, alright, let's go. Good morning everybody, welcome back to City Sowers. Gideon has a wood chip. Today I have got some fall gardening to do. I have amended a bed already because I'm a loser and didn't do it with the camera, but I think it's gonna work out because I can show you a finished bed and a messed up bed and kind of show you the transition in between that. Now what I'm doing in the gardens is that I am amending them at this point and I'm moving in fall plants as they're ready to go. This bed is amended, but it's not mulched yet. I need to put the mulch back on it. I pulled all the straw off of it from the summer and it's in the bin over here. And it's gonna go back over here to break down over the winter and protect the plants. But what I'm doing to amend them is I have a layer of chicken manure and then another layer of, it is just bagged soil, but I have a reason for that. Earlier this year, I did a video where I did a soil test. They were severely nitrogen deficient. And so I'm trying to bring that balance back up to par. And so I am still heavily amending with store-bought composted manure and some of the bagged soil and things like that, just because it needs that extra boost at this point. And this particular bed actually had melons in it, which melons are heavy feeders. So all the nitrogen and nutrients that I put back into the soil in the spring is probably pretty well depleted by now. So I do plan on continuing my practice of planting a scoop of rabbit manure along with each plant. And when we move the rabbits back outside for their winter housing, I'm gonna be a little bit more vigilant with collecting their manure. At this point in the garage, because of the shavings that we have to have in order to absorb the urine, it's not super effective for collecting manure, and we just didn't really have the space to set up a really efficient system, which I'm hoping that over the winter we're going to be able to sit down and brainstorm more of it. But this year what happened was it was just more of an emergent situation and we had to get the rabbits moved in as soon as possible because of the heat. But this time around I want to have all of that planned, in place, and kind of be able to collect the manure more efficiently so that I can use it as pretty much my sole garden amendment, because with the handful of rabbits that we have, I'm sure that their production of manure would be enough to amend this whole garden, because honestly, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge garden. So what I have done in this bed is it does have a layer of composted chicken manure and then a layer of organic bagged soil on the top to top off the bed, and it also is going to provide some of that moisture retention with all of the wood bark pieces that are in there. I am planning today we are moving in some collard greens, and I will be putting a scoop of the collected rabbit manure that I have in my bucket over there. Will go in each hole with each plant, so they'll get kind of that direct source of nitrogen. And then I will continue to be feeding these plants with some fish emulsion every couple of weeks, just to make sure that we're still getting that nitrogen, because that is important, especially with these fall plants. Now the way that fertilizers work, or mostly it's fertilizers, but you'll see an NPK. There's 3 numbers on it, and that is your NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, because potassium for some reason on the table of elements is a K. So what we're doing at this point is we are trying to boost especially our nitrogen levels for fall crops, because many of the fall crops that we eat are leafy greens, and nitrogen promotes green leaf growth. Phosphorus supports your plant's immunity, while potassium is going to support root growth. So what we're doing is that we really want to boost our green growth when we are eating the greens, because you want those nice big leafy green leaves. You want the plant to produce that. It's a little bit trickier in the summer because you want to have a more balanced nutrition for your plant, because you're trying to produce the fruit from the plant. So you want nitrogen because you want it to grow nice big leafy greens to promote photosynthesis, which gives the plant energy. But if you only give it nitrogen, then you'll have a great big beautiful lush plant with no fruit on it, because it doesn't have the other nutrients that will support its fruit production. So it's really a tricky balance when it comes to feeding plants. But fall is pretty simple because you're eating kale, collards, lettuce, spinach, all those things. You're eating the leaves off of the plant. You're not eating any fruit. So you're going to want a more balanced nutrition for things like cauliflower and broccoli and things like that, because those are trying to produce a flower head, which is part of the plant's life cycle to produce seeds before it dies. So it needs to have that balanced nutrition for it to push out that flower head. But today is going to be collard greens in this bed. So we're going to get those in and get our rabbit poop in with each hole. But first, before I do that, I'm going to actually put the mulch back over the top of this, the straw. There's two ways that I could do this. I could plant all the collards and then put the straw in after the fact, but honestly it's kind of harder to put the mulch around a plant. It's going to be easier if I just put the mulch in and then dig a hole in the mulch to put my plants in. So that's what we're going to do right now. Now let's get kicking. By the way, you know that your animals rule your life when you just went the long way around, so you wouldn't have to fight the goat at the door. I just went the long way around through the house. Yeah. Betsy. Hey, darling. Goats. Oh my gosh, you guys, I almost just made a huge mistake. Well, maybe not huge, but it would have been inconvenient. So I forgot that I actually wanted to try. I got some seed tape to try growing some spinach. Oh wait, that's beets. That's the spinach. So I have never actually grown spinach before because we live in such a warm climate. It has never worked for me. I've tried a couple of times when I was a newer gardener, and I just haven't tried since I have known more, and now I know more, and I'm going to grow it in the fall rather than in the spring because it just gets too hot too fast. But we're going to put some of this down first in the front of the bed, and then we'll have our 2 rows of collards. But as I'm sitting here, I look over at one of my zucchini plants, and I just found a pretty cool thing. There is a praying mantis over here, right here on this big old leaf, hanging out, and I think she's eating a catch. Excuse me, bee. Okay. Hello. Just finishing up a meal of something delicious, I'm sure. Pretty cool. Nice big fat female praying mantis doing her job protecting my plants. Thank you, Lady Mantis. Now she's cleaning her mandibles. Pretty cool. I love mantises. Alright, never a dull moment in the garden, right? Get to see that whole ecosystem playing out right there in front of us. Okay, let's get this seed tape done. Alright, now the thing about seed tape is that it's basically, the seeds are contained in like a biodegradable paper, and then you spread it out and the paper will break down as the seeds germinate. And so it's a nice, cool, like pre-spaced way to do the seeding, and it's just, they were on sale, so I grabbed them and I'll give them a try. So, haha. So first we've already dug our trench. We're gonna dampen it really quick because getting this tape damp is going to be the important thing here. If it stays dry, it's not going to break down and the seeds won't germinate. So I'm going to moisten it with the hose, and then I'll place it, bury it, and then we'll mulch it. All right, now is it pretty? No. Is it effective? Yes. So what I have done is I actually did a thinner layer of mulch. Whoops. I actually did a thinner layer of mulch here in the front where I just put that seed tape, because I want that protection from the sun so that it doesn't dry out the soil, but I don't want so much protection that it smothers the plants as they're coming up. So I'm hoping that this is gonna work, and that as the seeds germinate and start pushing up, that the mulch here is thin enough that they'll be able to push up through it, and then we may actually get some spinach from the garden this year. That'd be awesome. Now I gotta go get my collards and my bucket of bunny poo, and we'll get working on that now. Okay, so I have moved my collards out here, and they're right here, but problem is they're a little bit wilty because they're a little bit thirsty. So I've had them outside in the front yard, actually, in the interest of protecting them from animals that tend to get into my garden. So I had them in the front yard, and because there are other people who live here, they got moved. So unfortunately they were not getting water. So I just watered them, and I'm actually gonna let them soak up some of that water before I go about transplanting them, because they're already stressed now, and I don't want to add even more stress and shock them and end up having them die because of it. So I've got other stuff to do while I wait for these to get a nice drink, and once they're a little firmer, we'll actually go ahead and get them planted. It may end up being in the evening now because the heat is starting to build up a little bit, but they'll be fine. So I'll be coming back. It'll be a few seconds for you, but it's gonna be a few hours for me. Well, that took longer than expected. So the day kind of got away from me, and it's getting darker earlier in the evening, so by the time I was finally like, okay, I've got a few minutes, it was dark. I was like, well, I guess I'll do it in the morning. So I'm now here doing it in the morning. So I'm gonna spread all these out and space them out where I want them, and then we'll dig through the mulch and plant them. Okay, that's our first fall bed, actually fully planted out. I am so surprised at how fast this whole growing season went. It has just been a whirlwind. We've had so much going on, and now it's like, oh my goodness, the fall garden is going in. So now we have our collards in, we have our spinach seed tape planted. We will see if that produces anything for us this year. I really hope it does, because I really like spinach salad, and it'd be cool if I could just harvest it instead of having to go buy it. So these collards have actually been in now for about a week, and they're actually doing really good, but I wanted to point out looper moths. They're awful. So They look pretty. They look a lot like a butterfly. They're white and they have like a black dot on either wing. There was one just in here, but it flew away, so I don't have footage of it. But they lay eggs on brassicas. That's why they're called a cabbage looper moth. They like to eat brassicas. And I just found a female out here that's been laying eggs on my collards. Unfortunately, the best way to control cabbage looper moths organically is to search and destroy. So it's better to kill the adults before they lay eggs, and then you don't have to deal with the caterpillars, which will eat everything, and they will do so quickly. So I just saw this female coming in here, and they don't lay eggs in clutches. What they'll do is they'll land, lay, fly. Land, lay, fly. So they scatter the eggs throughout the crop, which is a real pain in the rear end. But, so as I've been waiting for her to come in and enter my range, this is the best way I seriously have found to catch them, because they're flighty. You can't get close. This has a decent enough range that if they're landed, you can just blast them with this and it takes care of them. And this is the Bug Assault salt gun. It's just a little assault rifle. It's amazing. It really does work. But now I'm also going through and I am pulling all of the eggs off the undersides of my collard leaves, because that's where they're laying them. They're not going to lay them on the top. They land on the edge of the leaf and kind of curl up and lay on the bottom of the leaf, so you can't see them. But they do that to protect the eggs from the elements, from the sun, from the rain, all that. They lay it on the underside of the leaf. So I'm actually going to take in the camera here and we'll take a look at some of the ones I haven't cleared yet, and you guys can see what the eggs look like. So here is the collard growth. They're actually doing really awesome. They're starting to take off and get stronger on some of the smaller ones. This leaf I haven't actually picked over yet, so let's take a look. Alright, and see there is an egg right there. See that little teeny tiny pale green thing? That is a looper egg. So all you gotta do is just pop it off, and then it's clean. So we're going through all the leaves that the moths can land on and loop their body around to lay their eggs. We're checking them. But if these things were to hatch, you'd be surprised at how much damage they can do. And they actually will take on the color of the foliage that they're eating, so they're camouflaged. Because I have had looper moths on a red kale, and they matched the red kale in color. It's not just this bright green worm standing out on a red leaf. They will take on the color of what they're eating. So as I'm rolling the eggs, I'm making sure they get a little bit smashed so that they're not going to hatch in the bedding and just end up... Ooh, see, here's one. This one's got a lot of eggs on it. Alright. So those are cabbage looper moth eggs, and we're just going to roll those and smash them. Make sure that those do not become caterpillars, destroying my food. I've worked too hard for this. Alright, there we go. But that just took out... Oh, look, see, here's even more. Yeah, this is going to seriously protect our crop here by keeping these guys from hatching. So these are the collards. They're doing fantastic. They're growing. They're getting nice and strong and sturdy. These will actually be ready to have their first harvest really soon. It'll be a light harvest, but it will be a harvest. So that's exciting. Next up on the agenda is going to be to get these beds all cleared out and take out my beautiful, gorgeous zucchinis. It'll be a sad, sad moment, but it'll be filled with excitement because we're moving on to bigger and better things. Thank you so much for joining me on this little fall garden preparation video. As always, this is your urban nerd with a goat herd, saying that you can grow where you're planted.